OpenJustice.AI. That is your topic for today, a conversation with Professor Samuel Dahan. Welcome to the Lawyers and Mediators International Show and Podcast, where we discuss law and conflict resolution topics to educate both professionals and everyday people. Catch regular episodes on YouTube and anywhere you get your podcasts. Just remember, nothing in these episodes constitutes legal advice, so be sure to talk to a lawyer, as cases are fact dependent. Hey everyone, this is Mac Pierlui. I'm a lawyer, mediator, arbitrator. I work throughout the states of Florida and Texas.
And I'm Thomas Giglione. I'm here in Toronto, introducing my compatriot, Samuel Dahan, talking about AI.
Hi, everyone. I'm Samuel Dahan, based in Montreal. I'm a law professor and co-creator of OpenJustice.AI.
Awesome. Welcome back, gentlemen. And Thomas, of course, you're a regular here on your Megatrend subtopic on all things AI, artificial intelligence. And Samuel, we've had you on maybe 1.5 to 2 years ago talking about vaccine mediations way back when during the COVID days. And you were talking about AI even back then. So this is not something that's new to you. You've been working on this, on everything artificial intelligence for a very long time.
That's
And so
correct.
it's really good to have you back. But now to talk on something that's a little bit different, and that is justice and access to justice in the law. And so, Samuel, could you tell us first a little bit about yourself, because you're a professor of ours, but let us know a little bit about yourself real quick.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm a lawyer by training. I'm a law professor and a law professor. So I come from practice. So before becoming a full-time academic, I was a lawyer in private practice, and then for the public sector, first the European Commission and then the European Court of Justice. And then in 2017, I became a full-time academic. So I teach at Queen's University, based in Canada, Ontario, and at Cornell University, based in New York, in the United States. And in 2017, I created the Conflict Analytics Lab. It's a research consortium dedicated to legal AI. So legal AI is the AI technology designed for law and dispute resolution.
Got it. And I'm sharing my screen a little bit. I have OpenJustice.ai on my screen. So everyone who's listening can definitely go over to OpenJustice.ai and check out the website that talks about generative AI design for the law. Real quick, before I let Thomas take over with some questions on you, to you, could you talk about the lab that you worked with that co-created this?
Sure. So the Conflict Analytics Lab, as I said, was created in 2017. It's hosted at Queen's University, but it includes a lot of other universities and collaborators. So since 2017, we've been creating a series of legal AI applications, mostly designed for the general public, so access to justice applications. So back in 2018, we created My Open Court. It's a legal AI for employment law, helping workers to predict the odds of winning a labor disputes. This was related to a lot of different questions: harassment, workplace harassment, termination, obviously, worker classification, and so on. Then in 2020, we created also the vaccine mediator, and we talked about this on this very podcast. And we also work with a lot of lawyers and industry partners, including BLG, a very known firm in Canada, Deal, an HR company, Scotiabank, and we also build customized legal AI models to help company to address very specific issues. For example, in the context of a recent project, we built an AI for to predict, to help organizations predict personal injury dispute resolution outcomes.
Gotcha. And Thomas?
Yeah, Samuel, so I'd like to acknowledge you with all your work that you're doing with the AI here in Canada. I'd just like to touch on two areas. One is the Open Justice AI platform that you're developing. The platform is operational in more than 25 schools, courthouses, and libraries. I was wondering, Open Justice AI addresses the unique challenges faced by legal professionals. What impact has it had so far with regards to, um, legal professionals using this and the courthouses and such, where you've expanded in your reach in this area?
Yes. First, I can tell you what Open Justice is. So, Open Justice is a legal AI system. So, it both includes both generative and predictive components. So, and it's we'll talk about this probably during this podcast, but it's important to know that it's an open source and crowdsourced system, and it's designed and trained only with legal data. So we want to make, and the idea is that generative AI and those that we call general purpose AI, so such as ChatGPT or Gemini and all the others available out there, they're not trained for a specific industry. So, for example, law, medicine. So they make a lot of mistakes, and we think that by creating a domain specific, so in this case law, we'll be able to tailor these AI system to the needs of the professionals. So that's the origin. We started this project in 2021. Actually, one of my PhD students in computer science, computational law, as we call it now. He just defended his thesis last week, and he started with his idea of creating a question answering system for law, but for everyone. So the idea also, what's very important for Open Justice is that it relies on the entire legal community. So naturally, now we are at 40 partner organizations, not anymore 25. And the idea is to make this almost like the open access and legal AI system for every lawyer. First now in Canada, then we moved to the US. Last month we opened it up to in France. A few weeks
Wow.
ago in the Netherlands, and next month we're going to Spain. So the idea is to make this free and accessible to every lawyer and law students, so that everyone has access to, there's some level playing, so that everyone can access to a basic legal AI system.
That's
Yeah.
amazing. Oh, I understand you're collaborating with Harvard A2J Lab. Could you elaborate on the collaboration between Open Justice AI and the Harvard Negotiation Task Force with Gian Brett and Harvard
Yeah.
A2J?
Yes, so we recently submitted a large partnership grant for funding, because we want to make this available to everyone, but it's also quite expensive. So we need to find ways to support this initiative. But it's important also to evaluate what we do. So the Harvard Access to Justice Lab, which is directed by Jim Greiner, he's a Harvard law professor. His work, what they're going to be helping us with is evaluating AI. So we want to run an impact assessment. So we're going to be deploying Open Justice. We've been deploying Open Justice to, into courthouse libraries, pro bono centers. So now in Canada, we pretty much cover every province. So pro bono Ontario, pro bono student Canada. Now soon we might be working with New York Access to Justice Commission to deploy in New York. But the important question, so we're going to make it available to these lawyers, and our research is going to be helping them to implement the system, train them on AI literacy and so on. But it remains an important question is, are these systems that are very expensive, are they actually really helping people? Or are they hurt, or are they actually more harmful than helpful? So because we are research organizations and we're academics, we are looking for that kind of knowledge as well. It's important to create the technology. I think it's important that open access, I'm a big believer that open source technology is extremely important, especially in professional settings like law. But it's also important to establish clear industry metrics. We need to know what's a good legal AI, and it cannot be the regulation. The current regulatory framework doesn't tell us anything. The AI Act and the Canadian regulation on AI as well is too broad. It's too one size fits all to address the specific issues that you and I as lawyers will be facing when we're using a legal AI. Let me give you a specific example.
Please.
So there is the classic example of hallucination. Okay, so it makes up cases. So we've seen that even it happens apparently in BC. Some lawyers came to court and they cited a fake case. So that's a problem. But there are many other issues that are problematic with AI. AI operates in a statistical manner, right? So it gives you, when you ask a question, it will give you the most likely answer, which is not the way how lawyers, we don't do that. We as lawyer, our favorite answer is it depends. So we're always going to be balancing different options. When you ask a question, ChatGPT, Open Justice, even now, we're training in not to do that. It will give you one answer, and it will force you to give you one answer at any cost, even if it's a made up answer. That's not what we do with our clients. So we don't want an assistant, because all these systems are supposed to be assisting us. We don't want to have a system that operate in that way. So that's why we need to be very careful how we design this system. They have to be really adapted to every industry.
Real
Samuel,
quick,
I
Thomas.
understand you have a lot of industry partners, and you have Colin Rule, who was on our podcast a couple of years ago, who's always working on the leading edge of um, negotiations and mediation involving AI. I understand he's on the advisor board. How is Colin Rule's involvement on the advisor board um, helping you with and your other industry partners? I believe Ernst and Young and other Miller
Correct.
Thompson that you have. Could you tell us a little bit about their
Yeah.
involvement?
Yes, so that's another a component of the Open Justice Initiative. So we're working with industry partners like Colin, and also Colin has been a great mentor and a close friend. If he hears this podcast, hello, my friend. So we work with industry partners for one reason is that we want to help them to harness AI for their data. So let me explain. So the main problem with the current state of the art in legal AI is the following. So first, you have general purpose AI that doesn't work well. Based on because of the mainly driven by the reasons that I just mentioned. Hallucinations. It doesn't really provide lack of diverse answers and an ability to provide citation and so on. Then you also have a lot of newly, post ChatGPT legal AI application that look like a specialized AI, but in fact they're just a ChatGPT, a GPT-4 or Gemini in with a legal interface. So that's problematic because it's extremely misleading. Okay, and then finally you have the new legal AI application that have been created by serious vendors. For example, Lexis is creating his own legal AI. Harvey, you may have heard of them. There are a few others that are reputable organizations. There are a few problems with these ones. First, many of them are not training a system. They're just relying on a foundational model like GPT, and then they're calling an API, go through their data, and then it creates an answer. So it's much better. It's much more reliable than just using ChatGPT, but it's not creating anything new. So it's not really adapting the system to the legal mind, which is, I find, problematic. And the second problem is that these are very expensive. They're very costly. So that means like most lawyers, so most solo practitioners will not be able to access that. So that's a problem because that's not going to be leveling the playing field. And another problem is that even if everyone were to access these systems, I mean, we all have the same AI. So it's a prisoner's dilemma. If we all end up having the same weapon, I mean, this is not really that much of a competitive advantage. So what we do now with these industry partners is that we're creating what we call distributed systems. So distributed system is that they will jump. So for example, EY or Miller Thompson or Edilex, they come to us. They use the trunk. So they use Open Justice, the core system. And then they create an AI that is adapting to their data and it's adapted to their needs. But however, without really sharing their data to the rest of the community that's using open justice. And for them, using an AI like Open Justice is a bit of a safe bet, because it is, yes, it is an open access system. It's open to a lot of organizations, but it's also open to only lawyers. So that means all the feedback Open Justice is getting, first, it's great for the community because everyone has access to it. That's great. But also it's good because it's better from a performance perspective. It makes the system better to have a lot of feedback from people who have some level of expertise in law.
Yep.
That's
Thomas, real
amazing.
quick, let me
Yes,
interject. So,
sure.
thank you so much for that. I was going to share my screen again, because one of the things we're not doing in this talk is actually seeing it in action.
Yeah.
So, folks can head over to OpenJustice.ai, and I was watching a quick little, summary video, a quick little video where you showed it in action, right? So this is the large language model. It's open source, and I think you were giving an example of a landlord dispute
That's
that
correct.
people were going through, and I was impressed. And I definitely understand the need for, why we have to keep it within the legal community and not just using generalized AI, you know where ChatGPT can answer everything, including cooking, to how to make your bed.
Yeah.
But whenever you throw in, legal topics into that, you know that kind of platform, you're going to have really bad hallucinations. I've seen it firsthand. And so just want to let people know you can definitely see this in action. And before I let Thomas take over, can you talk a little bit about um, the fact that it's open source? Because one thing I've discovered is that people sometimes say things are open source when kind of like OpenAI is saying
Yeah.
it's open source, ChatGPT is saying they're open source, but in actuality, they're a money making machine, right? And so, can you tell us how this is truly open source?
So yeah, so this is a very important question. So I don't think so, and I don't know if OpenAI is actually open source. I think it's mostly open access for now, and it's partially open
Yes,
access.
correct.
But
Yeah.
so the idea for us is that we want to make this tool available at no cost, or at least at a minimal cost, so that we can still we can manage to support the initiative. But why is that important? So first, it is important because I think having access to cutting edge research or drafting technology for lawyers, it should be a minimum service, a minimum benefit that we should, as law schools or as law societies, we should provide to the community. I think that's essential. But the silver lining here is not, it's not only because it's nice or because it's good for the community, it's good for access to justice. In fact, I think that's where the future of AI, the future of high quality AI is going. And I'm not the only one saying this. I mean, Jan LeCun, who 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 received the Alan Turing Award, which is the equivalent of the Nobel Prize award in computer science. I mean, he wrote a few papers about this. I mean, the thing is that having a system that's open to feedback and to can evolve. And now Open Justice is not anymore Queen's University or Cornell project because I'm a professor in these institutions. It's become a community project. The system now, our colleagues at the Netherlands, they're creating their own AI that's Dutch AI. Our colleagues in France are building their own AI that's there, adding more data. So the idea is that the data that's there should be available to everyone. So, however, it doesn't mean that the layer, however, the distributed layer that's developed by industry partners, so those who have proprietary data, that has to be protected, right? Especially firms. When you think about it, large firms, Canada is a great example because Canada is a very good it's a very competitive legal industry with a lot of very, very high quality firms, and they managed to protect themselves from big American firms. There's still a lot of very competitive Canadian firms, but they've been around for 100 years. They have accumulated that knowledge, which in my opinion is a gold mine. That's why as a client I want to go work with them, because they have this knowledge and experience. But now it's an opportunity for them to capitalize on that knowledge, and for example, write a mediation agreement in the same way as they would write a mediation agreement, not in the same way as ChatGPT would write it. So I think it's important to have these two systems. They're not necessarily incompatible. They should operate in parallel. They should be a minimum service, an open source service system that's functional for the entire community, while at the same time, those who have built that knowledge, they need to have that knowledge to be protected.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, Thomas, you want to follow up?
Yeah, I'd like to touch on, you talked a little bit about some academic papers. I did a little bit of research and researched your paper. It was titled "Lawyers Should Not Trust AI, a Call for Open Source Legal Language Model." That's a bit of a devil's advocate there. Could you tell me a little bit about the paper that you wrote? I found it very, very interesting. We could share the link later on. Mac could share a link later on for the paper. Can you tell me what,
I'll share right now.
a little bit about the paper? Why do you assert that generalized AI like ChatGPT should not be used for legal tasks?
Yes. So we wrote this paper in the summer as a position paper to establish our position on how AI should be used in the legal industry, in the legal context for legal tasks. So going back to what I said earlier, I mean there are a couple of major issues, or I would say like deadly flaws, that are related to the use of AI in legal context, and I'm not even talking about AI used by self-represented litigants. So first, we talked about hallucinations. Okay, so that's one thing. The second one is that the performance, and also I mentioned this in the paper, is it's fluctuating. It's unclear why some of the general purpose or generalized AI are not performing as well as they used to. So for example, I give the example, there's a recent paper showing that ChatGPT used to be able to solve certain math problems in May last year, and now it's not even to solve these same problems. So it's unclear. It doesn't make me want to rely on a system that evolves in that direction without really any kind of justifications. So there are a few other problems. I think that the main other issue is that it's lacking multiplicity. So multiplicity, I describe this as lack of diversity in narratives. So, and I think it's very important in the context of negotiation and mediation. So the main problem with AI is that first, we don't know, there's an opacity problem with the data that's used to train these large language models. We don't know what kind of data has been used, and it's very likely that it's been used with very mainstream data. So let's say you are a mediator and you want to solve a dispute. What's going to happen is that the system, if there's no legal precedent, if there's no objective legal criteria, it will very likely rely on the mainstream view, and it will give you this mainstream view as the most statistical, as the most likely outcome. And as a mediator, you don't want to do that. You want to have a panel of options. So that lack of diversity in reasoning is a main issue in law, because that's not how we're trained, and that's not how we want our lawyers to operate. So that's in the generalist context. And now you also have these so-called new, post GPT legal AI system that are created. And I mentioned this before, is that many of these are just GPT-4 with some kind of a legal interface. Today, there is no findings, there is no study showing that any of these applications, and including Open Justice, because we're not there yet, is clearly outperforming general purpose AI. So I think it's important also for lawyers to be very careful that when they're approached by vendors to purchase a very expensive legal AI, it's not clear that there is evidence that this system is going to be outperforming massively any of the generalized AI that's available out there.
Mhm. As a mediator in Toronto, about 50% of my mediations are in person, and then about 50% are online. I would think that Open Justice AI is more of a tool to help a mediator, like in a practical sense. If I'm in in-person mediation, how would Open Justice AI help lawyers and mediators like ourselves to to expedite mediations, improve mediations? Because when I try to promote AI, that I use AI as a mediator, the public is a little bit, not really in line
Yeah.
with what's really happening. I was wondering, there might be a disconnect there. So how can we integrate as in a practical sense? I know you're trying to um, promote Open Justice AI to practitioners. Um, in everyday sense, how can we integrate this?
I think this is a hard question. I don't know if I have an answer to this one. I think the first one is on our end. I mean, the academic institutions or research, those who are building the technology, and the vendors. I think we're going to have to do a lot of work in design thinking, just helping to design these tools uh, to make them appealing. And I think that's where the difference is going to be made. And these tools are going to have to be as easy as possible, has to be the integration into the mediation process has to be as smooth as possible. Okay, which is not the case right now. I mean, and especially in our case, I mean, us is I mean, Open Justice is a purely experimental project, but there are plenty of tools out there whose UX user experience, I mean, whose interface is much better than ours, and they're working really. And I think this is going to be an important aspect of the integration. The second one, I think, especially in the context of mediation, and we're trying. This is one of the sub projects, especially with the Harvard Negotiation Task Force. We're trying to design a system so specifically for negotiation and mediation. So we're trying to create a custom model by using, yes, legal data, but also ADR literature. So all kind of data that would help us to guide mediators, not only from a legal standpoint, but also from a mediation standpoint. Basically, we'll look. So the idea would be to have a system that can tell the mediators, okay, so here what the law tells you, but here what other mediators, or here what some findings. Here are some findings that show that this disputes might be resolved in that way. So for example, you take an example of a basic employment termination disputes. So the law says that you should the employer owes the $10,000, but maybe the system could tell you, if you offer a letter of apology and a letter of reference, you might get away with $5,000. I don't think we're there yet, but I think that would be an interesting way to humanize the way AI assisting processes operate.
Mhm. Samuel, we all know that AI needs data to get better. And what steps can legal professionals take to actively contribute to the development of this open source legal language model? And also, how do you deal with jurisdiction? Like, Mac is in Texas, I'm in Ontario, Canada. Um, you know, how does AI differentiate on jurisdiction? And the data that we would input would be different because we would have different statutes.
Yeah, yeah. So the first thing I think for lawyers, and I think this is true for especially for solo practitioners or small firms, is train themselves. I mean, build their AI literacy skills, and there are plenty of ways to do so. So there are new now, and it's not, these are not fully operational, but schools and law schools are getting there. So I think in the future we'll have law schools will very likely offer prompting engineering classes or AI literacy programs to help lawyers to use, integrate this system, and also evaluate this system. I think these are the three steps. I'd say, learn how to use these systems. First, learn how to integrate them into your practice. And especially, I think it's also important, learn how to evaluate critically the system. So it's important to trust the system, but verify the system. So I think that's the first step. In terms of like the data and how lawyers can contribute, so I think it's important for lawyers and even small firms to take an active role in building their own AI. So, and they are, and I think, and as I said before, I think the future of AI is not centralized. I don't think, I might be wrong, and I hope I'm right. I don't think there's going to be one AI in the same way as there is one search engine, which is Google. Maybe Bing and I is doing a little bit better. I think I see a future where we will be able to have, and it's actually happening. I mean, NVIDIA is working on this.
Mhm.
We have an AI that can be trained, can operate without even an internet connection.
Wow.
So, and it will operate with your own data on your cloud or even just on your laptop. And I think it is important for lawyers to work to learn with their own data. And I think it's important. And you think about it. I mean, you both have a lot of experience as mediators or as lawyers. But if I ask you, do you remember the case you mediated 3 years ago? Probably not. So if you had a system that can help you to retrieve just your own knowledge, that'd be a gold mine. I'd definitely sign up for this. So I think that's where even solo practitioners, that's where they should invest. And they are, we are a university, so we're putting this idea out there and we're experimenting this. But the whole point of this Open Justice project, in 6 months, we hope to prove that this is possible.
Mhm.
And that's why we are partnering with all these industry partners to show that yes, you can rely on the foundational model. They're extremely powerful, but they are much more powerful for small reasoning tasks like retrieving your own mediation agreement. You know that you resolved that case 20 years ago, or maybe 5 years, or 6 months ago, but you don't know where it is. You don't know what you did. So if you had a system that could really help you to retrieve that, that's entirely changing. That means we start also, that's extremely, from a mediation perspective, it's extremely interesting because we stop relying only on the law as your bat now, as your objective criteria. You have a greater range of objective criteria that you can access to.
Mhm.
Tom, yeah. So, well, guys, thank you so much. Samuel, as usual, you bring a bunch of knowledge to us and makes us think about things and where things are going. So, I agree with you. There's a lot of potential here for solo mediators, which, let's admit it, guys, that's the bulk of practitioners out there.
Yeah.
It's
Mhm.
going to be small firms and 1 to 2 mediators max. And I think a lot of times those people get kind of overlooked, especially with the Westlaws of the world and the LexisNexis of the world, and so that's where the attention's been. But I'm completely for helping people get trained up on this stuff and learning how to use and integrate it into their own practices. So, Samuel, I appreciate your time today, Professor, and we'll have you back again like we did last time. So thank
Mhm.
you so much for the insights you provided for us today.
Thank you.
And if people want to learn more about you, of course, you're on LinkedIn, and you're always publishing on LinkedIn because I'm always getting your posts.
Got a good,
Um,
good digital marketing team. Yeah.
Mhm.
yes, absolutely. LinkedIn is very powerful for that. But OpenJustice.ai is the main website, and people can go over there and learn more all about it. All right, guys. Thomas, you want to close us out if anything else?
Yes, we definitely like to follow up with you in 6 months' time. You said you'll have everything up to the level that you like, and we'd definitely like to be part of it. Mac and I would like to be part of whatever we can do to help, and we'll be in touch um, constantly with you and see what you're up to.
Thank you so much to both of you.
All right, gentlemen. Okay, everybody, until next time, check out lmipodcast.com with all these videos and on YouTube. Take care. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye bye.